All right, Coach Koll here, Stanford. Beautiful sunny day out there. Tell me about let's start with the weather. I'm from Central Ohio.
Yeah.
We just had the worst May, I think one of the wettest Mays on record. So let's start with the weather compared to Ithaca. What do you think?
Well, I'm a Central County, Pennsylvania guy.
Okay.
So I grew up used to that type of weather, center Ohio or Central Ohio.
Yep.
And then Ithaca was the exclamation point on that.
Uh-huh.
People say I was going to get used to it. You ever get bored? It doesn't get boring seeing the sunshine. I will say that. So it is pretty much the same every day, though. I will say that it's sunny and warm and
palm trees.
It gets rough. I don't like talking about that much though, because I feel like I'm soft. Because I took 32 years at Cornell talking down the weather. It's like, it doesn't matter. We'll make the room as hot as you want it. I'll turn the lights on.
Right.
So I actually very seldom talk about that. I let other people talk about the weather.
Is it safe? Can I talk about how beautiful the campus is at least?
Oh, it's spectacular. It is spectacular.
Unbelievable.
But you know what? I went to UNC, beautiful place. Penn State, beautiful place. Cornell, beautiful place. So
Yep.
I'm kind of spoiled when it comes to that. I expect beautiful campus. But then what I like about this is it's flat, so you can ride bikes. You're not always going up and down hills. There's not rocks, and so the kids can skateboard or whatever to class. It's a different feel for sure.
Let's talk wrestling.
Yeah, please do.
All right, so we're sitting in a wrestling room here at Stanford. You obviously made a change very recently. Let's just go straight to the state of the program as you see it right now and what it was like when you first started. People that are going to watch this, they know what was happening at Stanford Wrestling before you were part of the revival process. But how do you feel about the state of the program right now compared to,
Well, a little historical content. I mean, they were coaches were doing a good job, and they were building the program, and they were getting it to where it was a very competitive program. And then they of course, they canceled it. And when I came in, I was under the understanding we were going to get a recruiting class that year, and then admissions decided to change those, or someone didn't tell them. So I came in without a recruiting class, and I don't think people truly appreciate what that does to a school or a program. It's not just 1 year; it's 4 years. The next 4 years, you don't have that class. So we're very fortunate. I'm fortunate. Stanford's fortunate that they hired someone who came from a place that they could pull 8 really great kids, because had it not been an Ivy League coach who had kids who were in the queue who could get into this place, if you go off and you go and try to steal Coach Moore's kids at Lock Haven, not to knock Lock Haven, probably have some kids who've been able to get into Stanford, but generally speaking, they're not looking at a Stanford. So if you look at some other coaches who could do a great job here, they're not going to be able to bring kids with them. And at that time of the year now, I mean, almost every single junior is locked up. And so it would have been 2 full years without a recruiting class. And so we were able to save that. And I'm ecstatic about the guys we're having coming in. It was not just a good class, it was a great class. Those kids will be arriving on campus here for the summer in the next couple days, and the next couple weeks, and then the rest of the next couple weeks. We had a good group of kids here, but it wasn't very many. So I would say by the end of the year, our roster was around 18. We were very fortunate not to have a lot of forfeits and injuries this last year. But now we're going to have the ability to rest guys when they need to be rested and utilize a little bit of depth. And I'm extremely excited about that. Obviously, we've got some superstars returning. You've got Shane returning and Jaden Abbas. Those two, Real decided to go off to Iowa. Minus him, we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do at 41, but we're going to be just fine. And so this next year's team, we have some top-end talent. We've got some really talented kids coming in, and we've got some pretty darn good kids. The guys like Nick Stemmen, who just took second at the Junior World U23s.
Yep.
So I'm extremely optimistic at what we're going to be able to put on the mat next year.
So in comparison to the Ivies, to where you were for a while there, what type of individual, is it the same type of student athlete that you're looking for at Stanford that you would look for at Cornell, at Harvard, at Brown over there? Or do you have other opportunities, maybe different opportunities here at Stanford than you would?
Well, it's certainly harder to get in admissions-wise. They don't have the same type, and I had figured Cornell out pretty well, so we were able to get a lot of kids in, and so it is a smaller pool. The difference is you're offering more for that small to those kids. So, you're getting a kid, Yanni Yakimahalis, for instance. Yanni Johnny pays a lot of money to go to Cornell. People don't believe me. They think, oh, he's on a financial aid. No, his father believed that his family believed that it was worth sending him, so he's paying the full freight. That's a lot to ask. 99% of kids, if you don't have an amazing relationship with a parent, they're not going to spend that time. They're not going to spend the money. Here, we have the ability to scholarship those kids, so it puts us into a completely different demographic. We can get those kids who don't qualify for aid, who want to go to an Ivy League type of school, and certainly Stanford is better than most, if not all, of the Ivy League schools. So that allows us to go into those to get those kids. We still have the needs-based financial aid for the majority of kids to be able to attract guys who are, I always say, poor enough to afford Cornell, and in this case now Stanford. You don't have to be poor, by the way, to qualify for aid, because it's $85,000 a year after taxes. Man, you can make a lot of money and still qualify for a lot of aid.
Yeah. So you're looking for, again, I'm trying to turn on the wrestler from Central Ohio or from up near the lake or wherever.
We have some huge advantages over the Ivy League.
Okay.
The Ivy League, you can't go to grad school. Good luck, man. I mean, my son could have graduated in 3 years and then gone to grad school. I had to slow him down. I mean, that's just a huge disadvantage for the Ivy League, which they don't seem to care enough to change that. Their philosophy is, you come here for undergrad and you're done. Stanford doesn't have that philosophy, thank God, because that's one of the things that all coaches and all administrators, all ADs, they beat their head against the wall. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense if you can graduate early not to go into grad school, or if you have that year of eligibility, not to let those kids have that extra year. So that's something we're going to obviously try to use to our advantage. You can redshirt in the Ivies. Or you can't redshirt in the Ivies.
Right.
You can redshirt here. And people would say, well, you can. And so we had to become very creative. We gray shirted. We had kids take the year off, but you can't compete for the team. Now with the new redshirting rules, you're allowed to compete for practically half the season. It doesn't count against you, and you can be on aid, and so it definitely is a huge advantage. So there's some programs that there's some reasons why a school like Stanford has a huge recruiting advantage if you know how to play the game against the Ivy League, and if you can get the top Ivy League kids, you can win a national championship. We signed numerous number one classes in the country. They're still signing great kids at Cornell and Princeton and Penn. So I don't feel too sorry for those guys. They're going to do just fine.
Right.
With Stanford taking hopefully all the kids we can, because there's only so many kids we can get.
Yeah. So let me be specific. You're reaching into those areas. These aren't just California kids that say, you know what, I'm smart enough to go to Stanford and I get to wrestle at the same time. You're reaching into those same recruiting areas that you were before, right?
Oh heck yeah! I mean, our class last year, we went from every state but California. We didn't get any California kids. Now I think we'll get every California kid who's eligible to get into Stanford. And mind you, it's not easy to get into Stanford, but every kid we can. I don't think those kids aren't going to go to the East Coast to wrestle. Even when we were recruiting at Cornell, the California kids did not want to go east. They just felt like it was a better option. We're making sure that that's not the case anymore. That being a better option. The better option is to stay here, and then the kids from the East Coast, if distance isn't going to be a factor to them, we're going to get all those kids.
Absolutely. All right, so let me switch gears on you a little bit. Let's talk dollars and cents. RTC kind of wrapped in there as well, and the fact from a fan's perspective, when I'm sitting on the couch and I hear Stanford wrestling is going to be dropped, and I think, how does that even happen? What are you doing to ensure, from a dollars and cents perspective, how are you running this operation?
Well, I mean, I came in midstream, right? And so a lot of the pledges had been made. I was thankful for all the work that had been done before I got there. But there's one thing about making a pledge. It's not the one thing to make a pledge; it's actually to write the check for the pledge. And so that was it's not always that easy, and people lose the intensity or lose there was a desperation of writing. Hey, we're gonna drop the program. You write the check, or they're gonna drop it. Everyone makes those pledges, and the program gets reinstated. All of a sudden that urgency is lost, and so it's not always as easy to get those people then to follow through. And so that's something we've been taking. The last year has been chasing people down and trying to get them to write the checks, and then getting people to make pledges to get those to increase their gift. So we're about $23 million right now.
Okay.
And paid and in pledge. college, and so we're really happy where we're going to be. We hope to get to about 30, and then we'll be 26 to a little bit more. We'll be fully endowed. Everything that will be with 9.9 full scholarships. So that's our ultimate goal. Our RTC, we didn't have anything in the RTC, and now a little million in endowment, and last year raised a little over $250,000, maybe 300,000, and we have a lot more than that because how we work our program is all those kids, the people who come in and train with us, we expect them to work a job, and it's not to be punitive, certainly, and it's not only because we don't want to raise that money. Certainly we could. It's a matter of, I feel very fundamentally. I feel that unless you're going to go into coaching, I don't want you spinning your wheels for 4 or 5 years while you're training. And so we get jobs in Silicon Valley. We get them jobs with different people who are big supporters of our program. So it's 18 to 20 hours a week, and that helps significantly subsidize their income. We provide housing for them, so they do quite well. And then upon retirement from the sport, they can then step into a 6-figure income and hopefully stay in this area and continue to support the program. So we're working on to build a base of support that will last into perpetuity.
So changes at the RTC level or not? I mean, we've got athletes coming in, some of them going out. Is there anything that in particular that you want to mention?
So we're bringing Ryan Deakins joining us.
Yep. Okay.
We're excited about Ryan. Right now we've got Gabe Townsell, who's already here. Tyler Berger, who was on the national team. Vincenzo Joseph, obviously, he's competed really well. He's going to do a lot more just focus on RTC stuff, which I'm excited about. And then we're planning on bringing some more bodies. I've got Quinn Perez, who's in there training as well.
Nice.
I can't think of anybody else. Gosh, I don't miss anybody. No, that's it for now. I've been in communication with 3 or 4 other people who we want to add to the roster, and it's so for 1 year, I'm really proud of what we've been able to build. It's a great little RTC in 1 year, and what we've done in 1 year, hopefully will pale in comparison to what we'll have in 2.
What do you feel about how the NIL money now? Is that going to take away from RTC money?
Certainly it's going to be a direct correlation to the RTC. It's going to be the same pooled money to some degree. People think it's going to be the bane of a wrestling coach's existence, and I think there is some truth to that. But by the same token, and if you talk to Mike Moyer from the NWCA, he fears that it's all the money's going into these other directions as opposed to funding the sport. I think the more money you bring into a sport, whether it's in RTC or NIL, honestly, I believe, and maybe an administrator wouldn't feel that way, but I think it's generally not those sports, those teams that are bringing in huge amounts of money in those areas that are getting dropped. Although certainly you have to be careful, but I think when you get your alumni and friends to write checks, it makes it easier for them to write checks the next time, and certainly then, certainly in Stanford's case, they've written very big checks, and that's obviously there are other programs that could have not been, dissolved if all their alumni had gotten together. But generally, those programs didn't have healthy RTCs in the first place. I think Mike would use Old Dominion as an example, a program that was raising a lot of money for their RTC and not putting it into endowment. But once again, I don't think $200,000 a year would have been the difference. But for an administrator who was trying to save $1 million, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the individual wrestler's experience as far as social life, things to do on campus. Let's talk a little bit directly to maybe the incoming recruit. What's life going to be like for them?
So it is different. I will say that it's completely different. Our guys ride bikes to class. They ride scooters to class. They ride skateboards to class. When I used to coach, I'm like, you're gonna get soft. Now I'm here, I'm like, the two aren't mutually exclusive. You can train hard and actually enjoy your life. Wednesdays are our off day. We have a morning lift. Guys go to class and they'll go surfing. They'll do whatever. Okay. I literally, the idea of it is just crazy. I mean, to me, it's like go surfing.
You haven't surfed yet?
I don't want to get eaten. All right, I think there's a reason I don't go surfing. I don't want to get eaten, and I think that's what the oceans are for a fish, not for humans. But our guys love it. They go to, there's any number of different places to hit the beach. They got their wetsuits because the Pacific's not warm.
Right.
But and all summer long, that's what they do. We have a great we train the guys, and as I said, we have a different summer program, and there's certainly nothing they have to worry about on Wednesdays. So Wednesdays their surf day, and then the weekends they'll go to the mountains or do something else. And it's a different culture. I will say that, and it's not as if they haven't had great teams from this part of the country in the past. UCLA, when they dropped the program, I think had the most returning points. It's just they don't have enough teams, and they don't have teams that have the kind of support that we have historically, and now we have that. You're going to see the results very, very quickly.
All right, so we've talked recruiting, we've talked program, we've talked RTC. What are we missing here?
Man, what else is there in life?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I got a big baseball game coming out.
You got a baseball game?
I tell you, it is a different lifestyle. I go to we got the one little place called the Guild. I go over and there's concerts every week, and then we go to a beach volleyball game. We go to a baseball game. I go to the beach. I mean, it's just I will say there's a whole lot to do here. So that has been a lot of fun, and it's nice to see that Cornell is doing fantastically well at the same time. So I can still cheer for those guys, and don't get me wrong, we want to beat them, but that's still something I put 32 years in. So I look back on my experience there, and I took away a lot, and I wouldn't be as successful here if I didn't have those years at Cornell. And it's nice to see that Mike is doing a great job. Now we're gonna have to beat them, battle them recruiting wise, and we'll crush them like small children.
Yeah.
So Mike, that's coming for you.
Yeah.
But it's neat to see the other Ivies. Penn and Roger Rain is doing a fantastic job.
Yep.
Obviously Princeton's doing a good job, and Columbia is doing a really good job. And Brown just hired Jordan Lean, who's going to do a fantastic job.
Breaking news.
Yeah, people know this. It's you don't have to go to Penn State. You don't have to go to Iowa or Oklahoma State. You can have the world's greatest education, literally the world's greatest education. Enjoy your college experience and do it all, and then be prepared for life. And what I'm excited about is all of our kids are coming in. I've got in our current team, they're working in Silicon Valley. They're working in private equity. They're working in venture capital. They're working in. I've got 3 working at the medical school here doing research. I mean, just everything you could possibly want, we're offering right here. And it only took a year to get it up and running. And what we're going to do a year from now, if you come back and see where we are, I think will be pretty remarkable.
You wrapped in a lot of things there that are involving the student athlete here at Stanford, the wrestler here at Stanford. Put a bow on it. What's it going to take for you to win the conference first, and then obviously push for a team trophy on the big stage?
Well, I mean, if we can win the conference, we can win a trophy, right? I mean, Zeke's doing a great job at Arizona State. I mean, Pendleton is doing a fantastic job at Oregon State. You got freaking John Cerritos down at Cal Poly doing a great job. So the competition is not far from here. I mean, we have got great young coaches. Zeke's older than dirt, but I mean, the rest are young coaches, and they're doing a really good job, and that brings the whole level of competition up for everybody. We're not that far off. In the old days, you'd come in as a freshman. I was the first freshman ever to place at North Carolina. I took 8th, and I was lucky to place 8th. And that was the first ever in the history of the sport. It had been around for probably 90 years. Now, so then the next year, I placed 3rd, and the 3rd finally won. You developed. Nowadays, just add a mat, and you can go out and bring in All-Americans. I don't know how many freshman All-Americans I had at Cornell, but it was basically every single year. And I look at the team we have coming in, or the kids coming in. I know many of those guys could be All-Americans this freshman year. If they can make our team, they could be an All-American. Well, shoot, if I can do that for 3 years or 2 years in a row, I mean, that's top 10. And then it's just a matter of how high they go. And so it doesn't take that much. There was a period at 15 to 18 year period in a row. I don't think we were out of the top 10. I don't think there was only 1 year we didn't have 4 or 5 All-Americans. And that's at Cornell without scholarships, without being able to go to grad school redshirt. I mean, if we can get 4 or 5 All-Americans there, all we need is one more. And you need basically 6. And obviously they got to place in the right place.
Yep.
We've got 2 on the team right now, and you never know with how kids are with grad school, and it's it isn't that we're not that far away.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk team national duels. We spoke a little bit off camera about that, but and again, I'm trying to come from a fan perspective, man. I mean, you were advocate of the national duels process. We did it. We got away from it. We tried it again. What's your thoughts on getting this thing back going, and what do we need to do to get a national duel champion?
Yeah, when I was president of the National Wrestling Coaches Association, we voted. We came within one vote from actually pushing to actually making it mandatory. You had to go to the national duels, and we had a couple Big Ten coaches who didn't want to do it. And I mean, it was. I don't understand how you cannot want a national duel championship.
Right.
I'm going to the baseball game this weekend. We got beat by UConn, and in Tennessee, the number 1 team in the country got knocked off. The number 2 team in the country is Cornell. Number 3 team, UNC, got knocked off. Number 4 team, Oregon State. I don't know if they got knocked off or not. It's just there's so much more excitement, not more excitement, but equal excitement and more chance in a duel meet than in a tournament. You know who's going to win the tournament almost every year.
Right.
There's just more risk, more chance, and I you got to have that, and it's frustrating because you have some of these Big Ten schools, but they won't wrestle us when we were at Cornell. They will not wrestle you. And it's like, but then they don't want to have the national duels. So they want to have they don't want to have the national duels because there's a chance they might not win, and yet they won't wrestle you, and they don't understand why you'd want to have the national duels. It just, what am I missing?
Yeah.
So what do you have? It's going to have to have administrators make this decision because you can't get a bunch of coaches in a room and they're all going to be selfish. They're going to say, well, if I think I'm going to win it this way, I'm not going to do it. I don't give a damn about the rest of the sport and the rest of the country. As long as I'm winning, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that way about any coach, not just wrestling coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you just have to take the power out of their hands.
Switch gears a little bit to women's wrestling. Any thought, any talk here about putting a women's program together?
I've offered to fund it and to let them use it. I don't know, it's not my room, but at this point in time, that there's not a desire at the people who make the decision to do it. It's going to just take it's going to take students here, women, not just a bunch of men, because a lot of times it's the men pushing for it, and we need the women to advocate. They're a lot more politically powerful than a bunch of wrestlers pushing for it. California, there's so many women wrestlers, and they're really talented.
Yep.
I have our camps and our clinics, and it's almost 50-50 in many cases.
Huh.
And so it's growing exponentially, and it will happen. I'm 100% certain it will happen in the Pac-12. I'm zero doubt. And once that does happen, Stanford, I'm sure will come along. I mean, you can't help it. It's one of the fastest growing sports, at least based on percentage of any sport in the country.
Right.
And they're really, really good. If you go to the California State Championships, it's men and women. And I said a lot of high schools here have more women than men in their teams.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time. The right dominoes need to fall. But yeah, it would be cool to have another D1 program.
I think it's the only way it really would help when you're looking at schools like UCLA and USC and the SEC.
Yeah.
I think that those schools were probably the greatest opportunity and probably the best chance ultimately to add men's wrestling would be to get women's wrestling first.
Right. Okay. You want to talk about the Dave Schultz picture in there, or should we leave that story?
Are you talking about my picture?
Yeah, sorry, your picture.
The Dave, I found, you have to look at the picture. Now, there's a picture of me and there's a picture of Dave. And I was looking at this picture. It's a very famous picture that was drawn after Dave passed away. And I'm looking at that dang thing over months. And then I realized after about 3 months, that's not a picture of Dave. That's a picture of me.
Uh-huh.
And Dave happens to be pinning me in it. So I'm like, oh my God, Dave, you got the last laugh.
The immortalization of the only pin that ever happened in your life.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Why would they pick that picture? I happened to, fortunately I was looking away. And if I hadn't made it, but I'm honored to be in that picture. if someone had to pin me, I'm thankful I can talk about it being Dave.
Yep. All right, Coach. I appreciate the time. What else? You want? What am I missing? What do you want to add?
There is not a whole lot, man. I tell you, I just hey, if you're not on the Cardinal bandwagon, give me an email me, let me know, and I'll make sure you become one of our fans.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Thanks, Coach. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.